God, we are thankful for this gorgeous day. The sunshine and the warmth brings your beautiful world alive, and we have so much to appreciate and enjoy. We are especially grateful for our students that we work for. Help us to continue to offer them guidance and leadership so that we can help them accomplish their goals and reach all their potentials. Help us to be encouragers and promoters of our schools. We ask you provide for all those in need and give strength and peace to all those who are struggling. In your name we pray. Amen. We'd like to stand now for the Pledge of Allegiance. Riley, would you like to lead us today?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we get to start with a couple presentations today, and the first is the Coffee County Education Foundation Coffee County Raider Academy. And you will have to, in order, since we are broadcasting, you will have to speak into the microphone so we also can pick you up on the cameras and to everyone else that's listening.
Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to welcome the Education Foundation. There are some groups that are synonymous with partnerships between the community and the school district. I'm not sure how long the Education Foundation has been active, but I know I've heard about it for a very, very long time with my mom in education and that kind of thing, and so it's wonderful to have that partnership, and we appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'm Tom Markram, and this is Brenda Brown, and we're here on behalf of the Coffee County Educational Foundation. The foundation was started many years ago, actually in 1991, and we solicit funds to be used for the enhancement of the education of our children in the Coffee County school system. It is a nonprofit organization, and the board is a volunteer board, and we take donations and do not spend the donation. We use that money as an endowment, essentially, or principal, and we use the interest or the income that comes from the foundation and use that to fund programs to enhance the education of our children in the Coffee County school systems. In the past, we have funded numerous programs. More recently, we have provided additional books for the elementary schools for their reading program. We have provided an outdoor classroom for the middle school, and we have provided chemistry equipment for the chemistry department at the high school. This year, we are happy to be able to fund money to the Raider Academy, and we are going to fund the equipment for a student wellness room as part of their physical education program. So I'm happy to present, actually Brenda's going to be happy to present a check to Principal Angela Sellers and her Vice Principal Susan Farrell. That's right. Okay, and $4,000 to fund the equipment for this student wellness room. And there you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do any of the board members have any questions or want to say a word other than thank you so much? Yes. Would you like to come back? We want to hear you.
Questions? Y'all want to hear what we're doing first, right?
Yes.
We are developing a classroom into a fitness facility for our students to cycle through in groups from their PE classes. So it's actually 3 machines like they have at the rec center. No free weights, they're cable. Mr. Pearson was at the forefront of this because he feels like that's an important piece of our fitness for students, and we didn't have access to that. So we're adding this to enrich our PE programs, and we felt like that would touch the most students because all the students rotate through our PE programs.
It's a really good idea.
So we're doing 3 of those machines, you know, like at the rec center, they have the cabled weights. We have a bench in the middle that they can do weights on a machine.
And it can be added to, correct?
It can be added to, yes. We can keep adding to these things. And we've had the room all checked out by the fire marshal, so we're good to go with that. And as soon as we get the funds, we can go ahead and order the equipment and get it operational. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Any questions? Any
Thank
more
you.
questions,
Yep.
comments?
Mr. Markram, thank you very much for what you do. So,
Thank you. We hope to, this next year, we're looking at the elementary schools, and hopefully we can have even more money this next year to donate to those schools. So we look forward to that.
It's very good because, go ahead. Anybody has anything? We appreciate all you do for our schools and the community too, not just our schools. So thank you all very much.
Tom, the one thing that maybe you might explain to the people too is how they can make donations in memory and honor of people. It's a great opportunity to do that, so.
I'll be glad to talk about that. We do solicit donations. Many times, people will give money in honor of someone or in memorial, in lieu of flowers. Many times that is appropriate. So we certainly think that's a good idea if you would like to support the foundation. And the other is to include us in your estate planning, and so that we can provide funds that then perpetually give every year, because we do not spend that endowment or that principal. And whatever you give to the foundation gives year after year after year. So keep us in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Our next is Dr. Blessing, spring of 2023 data.
Good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of the state, I want to apologize.
Oh, no.
They decided this year to release data in waves, and this wave has been a long time coming. It says spring 23 testing data, and here we are almost ready to do spring 24 testing. So, but we'll take that and run. We have seen some district level data. We've seen some growth data. This is school level data. You'll see we'll be looking at that, and we'll be looking at, I'll put 3 years up there of worth of data that we have. And also, we want to talk about district designation and school accountability status, which covers a good deal of territory, just briefly. This information is taken from a state website, and that's the link. In fact, I will share this presentation with everybody so that you can look at it at your leisure. The irony is we have a state report card, but the state hasn't updated it yet. And it will not be updated until later this month for 23. So again, irony, I guess, at its best. We'll be looking at the all students percentages, even though you could break it down and look at the various subgroups. Again, just a reminder, we know we had that 1920 year that was atrocious and no testing. It was just terrible. And then we got back on track in 2021 with a few interruptions, and then we're back full steam ahead. So what you're going to see, again, just every table I've broken down by grade, and you can see again for 3 years, the latest data is in the far column to the right, and you can look at this going across horizontally, and you can see grade level performance. You can look diagonally, and you can follow a cohort for as long as you can follow it on this table. For instance, you can see the third grade in 2021, fourth grade in 21-22, and the fifth grade. So you can see performance in that way as well. And again, I don't want to dwell forever on this, or we'll be here for quite a long time, which is not my intent for us to be here for that long, which is another reason I want to share this with you so that you can look at it at your convenience. But that was English, and again, everything's labeled above. And then we also have math, and you can see some improvements there along the way. But again, there's no set pattern. It's not like everything's gone up or everything's gone down or some things stayed the same. It just varies from subject to subject and from grade to grade. We also have data for science, and that's true for the elementary schools. There will be no social studies for the elementary schools because the state has stopped testing social studies in the elementary schools. They say it's paused, but it's been paused so long now, I don't know when it will resume. And again, each school has its own slide for the different subjects. And I'll go through and give you time to just look at that. And if there's any slide that you'd like for me to revisit, I'll be glad to do so. But I just want to show you that we do have the data. We, as a school system, got the data in time to make decisions on it, but released publicly, that's when it was released in waves. And again, as you go through and look at these, you say something, well, can you give us some explanations for why it went up or why it went down? Well, there'd be a lot of variables. You know, if you're tracking cohorts, there are some cohorts that are stronger than others. If you're looking across grade levels, you have changes. You have changes in staff, you have changes in materials. So it'd be difficult to isolate it to just one particular reason for change. Again, as you look at these numbers, for those who are wondering, the first column of data is called On Track and Mastery. That was the term that was being used by the state. In 21-22, they changed it. It still means the same. The top two performance levels. It's just met, exceeded, replaced On Track Mastery. Again, as you look at these, and if you have questions along the way, I'll certainly be glad to try and address them. In some cases, you see dramatic increases, and that's wonderful when we see increases. Bless you.
Thank you.
And again, the 6 elementary schools each have those 3 subjects in which tests are administered. When we get to the middle school, they have 4. They do have social studies testing starting in grade 6. And again, very similar for the middle school. You'll see grade 6, 7, and 8, 3 years worth of testing data. The only difference is you're going to see that 4th subject. Okay. There's a slight change when you start looking at end of course testing in secondary schools, also at the middle school. You can't track cohorts because the groups do not follow like everyone's taking 3rd grade math, 4th grade science. No, they take these subjects when they take the subjects, so you can't really track them that way. But you can see here for Algebra 1 for the middle school, that's the only EOC subject that they have. And then at the Raider Academy, again, they have 3. They have Algebra 1, they have Geometry and English 1. For the high school, we have 5 EOC tests presently. You'll notice that U.S. history is not there because at the high school, the students take state dual credit testing, and that's a different test. They don't take the end of course test, they take a different test, and that's not included in accountability data.
Dr. Blessing,
Yes?
is there some reason why algebra is all zeros?
Yes,
No
sir.
data?
When you get to the high school, for 10th graders, the overwhelming majority of students are taking what's called Algebra 1B, and that means they're a special ed student. Mhm. And again, the Virtual Academy, they have that extra subject of U.S. history because they do not offer state dual credit. And they were not in existence in 2021, so that's why there's no data there. Okay, and that's the 3 years worth of data. Again, you can study it for yourselves in your own time. When I'll be glad to share that after tonight's meeting, probably sometime tomorrow morning. District designations, this is a classification just applied to districts. There are 5 categories, and we'll see that on the next slide. But Coffee County School is classified as advancing. Now you'll see that there are the 5 categories. The top is exemplary, and there were 12 districts in the state of Tennessee who achieved that designation. Advancing had 83, Satisfactory had 44. No district was marginal, but there were 7 districts across the state classified in need of improvement. So we were in the 2nd category, and that seems to have the largest membership. Priority schools, there are different categories for that as well. Currently, the middle school is classified as an additional target support and intervention, or you'll hear the letters ATSI. They were considered classified as that a few years ago. They got off the list, and then it has gone back. And you'll see that the 3 levels, there's TSI, Targeted Support and Improvement, 112 schools across the state in that category. The additional Targeted Support and Improvement, there were 74. And then Comprehensive, which means they were identified as either target or additional, and they did not improve, they didn't get off the list, and they advanced to that particular level. And there were 99 schools in the state of Tennessee that fell into that category. The last group, school letter designations and reward schools. And you have to remember, the state of Tennessee, for some reason, likes to have different accountability systems. We have a federal accountability system, and we have a state accountability system. They are not identical. They do not use the same data. Federal uses ELA and math. The state uses all tested subjects. And they use different categories. The state uses growth and also looks at the bottom 25% growth in a subject or grade. So you'll see, again, every school across the state that qualifies for a grade was given a grade. And you say, doesn't every school qualify? No. For instance, if it's a K2 school, there's no testing. So they don't get a grade. Or if there was some reason, if they had such a small population, they didn't get a grade. But the scale they used was an A through F scale. Also, on reward schools, there were 400 schools across the state that were recognized as reward schools. And here, to try to condense it down, we have each school, its letter grade, and if a school was recognized as a reward school, they've been noted here in the slide. You'll notice that there are 4 reward schools for Coffee County. That's the most number of reward schools that we've had in Coffee County. Up to that point, we've had 2, so we doubled it to 4. I think it's an outstanding job. But again, you have to remember, for instance, you'll say, does a reward school mean it's an A? No. They're 2 different systems, so they don't relate that way. But I would say this, you'll see 2 schools that were A's, 6 schools that were B's, so that's basically 80% of our schools in Coffee County were recognized in that school letter designation as an A or B. Questions, perhaps?
I think you're probably the only person in this room that truly, truly understands all this. And I appreciate that in you.
Well, don't sell everyone short.
This is very confusing.
Well, again, sometimes it takes time to look and look and look again.
The more I look, the more my eyes cross.
Oh.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is a lot, but I do appreciate you, and you do a very good job at explaining it.
Well, that's kind of you to say. Other comments or questions?
How are you going to use these test scores?
Beg pardon?
How are you going to use these?
Well, again, when you're looking at the school level, I think it's much more appropriate for the principal to look at their data and to make their decisions. And does that mean I want to try something different in terms of strategy? Does it mean that I want to maybe reassign teachers from one grade level or subject to another? Does it mean I look at teacher level data and say, what's going on? Does this teacher need support to help them improve? I mean, that would be most appropriate for the school level administration to do.
I noticed that Hickerson really had some good math scores, 70, because that was, I never saw any of them in the 70
Talking about
percentile.
Hillsborough.
Thought it was Hickerson.
No, it was Hillsborough.
Okay, it was Hillsborough. Then that would, to me, whatever school that was that had that math score, that would be something that maybe need to be looked at what they're doing and maybe replicate that.
Yeah, and that's certainly a wonderful suggestion. I know in some...
I'm just a comment.
Yeah, but sometimes in replication and trying to do that, that can be a challenge. I mean, you have something that works for you that I try to pull it off and it doesn't work for me. And on the other hand, there's something that I might be able to do that is not carrying over to other people. But there are certainly common strategies, common things that can be taken from effective teachers.
I would think maybe they ask each other, especially when they see a higher score at another one. I would think that would be something that they would share with each other, either in principals' meetings or
Yeah.
just check with each other.
And you would think, but again, I don't want to speak or put words in the teachers' or principals' mouths about what they've said or what they've done. But certainly when they look at that, say, the first reaction I have, how'd you do that? How did you get the kids to do that? And again, that conversation then might lead to some implementation of strategies from one school to another. We certainly would hope that would be the case.
Thank you.
Are these the basis for the TCAP-related portion of the outcomes-based funding from TISA?
That's part of it. I know depending upon that, I'm not quite sure if they go because TISA again is new this year.
Right.
If they look just at the district level data or if they break it down to the school level data. I mean, if anyone has any comment on that, you're welcome to join in. If it's district level or school level or both.
As part of that is improvement between third and fourth grade TCAP scores, and it might be interesting to see that, and not this time, obviously, but,
Yeah, because we haven't tested, they just started that with the third
Right,
grade, and
right.
we haven't got fourth grade tested this time yet.
right.
A few weeks, that'll be over.
Yeah, so, okay, thank you.
Mhm. Yes.
I'm just going to ask a silly what if. What if the virtual academy had not had not offered U.S. history, but instead had offered the same history that the high school has? What is the state equivalency
Or
test?
state dual credit.
Dual credit on that? The history scores would not have been on there. And
That's true.
I seem to recall that scores we saw earlier in the year indicated that the history was what pulled them down
Well, that
somewhat.
certainly would contribute, but it wouldn't solely be history. I mean, if you look back at the other scores in math, English, biology, some categories were greater than others, but there were some that certainly were lower. And that's like when you look at the letter grade designation, they look at different categories. They look at achievement, but they look at growth. They also look at growth in the bottom 25% of a certain category. And depending on the school, if they have career and college ready, it's a component as well.
Thank you.
But again, as you pointed out, if they did state dual credit, would that show up then for them? No, because it's not used as part of the accountability model.
Dr. Buck,
Yes.
do you look at this compared to our surrounding counties? Do you compile anything to,
Well, it's available, and that's like, and even the data that I've used here in a spreadsheet form is available to the public now. And it's got all the systems, the spreadsheets about schools, it's got all the schools listed. Yeah, and sometimes just out of curiosity.
I looked
look.
at it. So, I mean, I just wondered how you all looked at it, or if you all compiled something to see how we were in comparison to our surrounding counties.
Yeah, that's like,
Surrounding city systems even.
back however many months ago when the district data was released in August, we had a presentation, and I did have slides where we showed the performance for the South Central Core, the 16 systems, and the state average. So yes, we do look at that, and sometimes we look at that and wonder, again, we look at the numbers and say, how did they do that?
Right.
Because it's so high. And sometimes we look at another county and it's, why are they doing that? Because it's extremely low.
Right.
And again, we may look at it, might compare ourselves, but it's not, when I'm looking at some of these numbers, and unless I'm seeing really, really high numbers, I mean, Ms. Jones pointed out about Hillsborough having that high percentage. If it's a low percentage, then it leads me to worry, but I'm gonna worry about us. I'm not gonna worry about the other systems. I might gawk, but that's it.
I guess I'm just saying I'd like to sort of see where we fall in with
Yeah.
what.
Yeah, and again, I think I may have shared that presentation with you as well with the district level. Again, just with the South Central and the state average.
And what are the TCAP scores? Are there 3 of them? Is there MET?
Well, for elementary, there are 3.
Okay.
There's English or ELA, there's math, and there's science.
Okay.
For middle school, there's 4. You add social studies to that group.
Okay.
And then when you start moving up to the secondary level, you have 3 math tests. There's Algebra 1, there's Geometry, Algebra 2. There's 2 English tests, English 1 and English 2. There's 1 science test, Biology, and there's 1 social studies test, and that's U.S. history. That's available.
I would like to see something like this on the other scores, like the underachieving scores and things like that, all the percentages, just so we can.
And that's what's on the
see
state
that.
report card.
Okay.
If you go to the state report card, even now you can go to last year's and see, and it will show you for several years, and
Okay.
you can change the the subject, you can change the grade level, and it will show you a breakdown of not just met and exceeded,
Okay.
but also approaching or below, and it'll have it for several years.
And you said the end of this month, they should have our report cut
Yes,
out?
ma'am. It's
Fingers
supposed
crossed?
sometime the end of this month, which the state calls early 2024. Loose definition.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? Well, thank you for
Thank you.
allowing me to come and present this
Thank
evening.
you, Dr. Blessing. We appreciate, we always enjoy seeing you. And thank you for your time.
I'm gonna come by and visit with you in next week or two for 2 or 3 hours to try to,
Are you bringing the snacks?
maybe.
Oh, okay. Want to make sure.
He'll eat the snacks.
All right, at this time, I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we didn't have anyone sign up for public comment today. And before I accept a motion to accept the agenda, I did have a request by the Coffee County Middle School from FBLA. There's an FBLA state conference in Chattanooga that happens before our next board meeting. Okay, that affects 24 students. So if whoever makes the motion
I'll
to,
make a motion.
or if you want to make a motion to accept the agenda and pass the general consent items, if you want to add that to the consent
I'd like
item.
to add that to it.
Okay, you'd like to add that, and I can go over the specifics if you want me to. So I've had a motion adding this. Do I hear a second?
So, a second.
Boy, I heard a bunch of them. All right, I think Miss Jennifer might have been first.
Those kids don't get to go, I don't want to be on the
Okay, that Mr.
receiving end of it.
Parsley and Miss Jennifer. All right, so let me tell you, to add that one, let me just tell you so everybody will know. It was the Coffee County Middle School, grades 6 through 8, FBLA, 24 students with 13 adults. It's the FBLA State Conference, which I think they've attended yearly. Is that right? Yes, sir. Okay. Departure 4:27 on Sunday, return 4:10 Wednesday at 12. Transportation's by the parents. There are 2 school employees going, Rachel Williams, Katie Smith. They do have a hotel. Transportation has already been paid. And most of us understand what FBLA is. We hear a lot of positive things from them, and Mr. Anderson did sign on it. So that was what that was. So are there any questions or concerns with the agenda or the general consent items? Hearing none, we will vote to approve it. Ms. Jones, I'm going to let you go first today.
Aye.
And we're going to go that way, Ms. Jennifer.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Okay. Action item number 1, Bonnaroo CHS lease. Dr. Lawson, do you want to speak on this?
Yes, I will. We talked about this at the work session. This is the same, Bonnaroo uses the high school facility, basically parking lot, gymnasium, cafeteria, and one of the classrooms adjoining the cafeteria to register their workers and process that. And as such, they have paid for the use of that facility. We discussed it at the work session, was that last week, or no, I'm sorry, at the last work session. And the fee, we discussed raising that, I believe last year was it 10,000? It was $10,000 last year. The board discussed raising it to 12,000. Mr. Shores talked with the representative from the entertainment company. They agreed to pay that, so that is in there, and we just need formal approval of the board to move forward with this contract, and that 12,000 ends up going to the high school for costs incurred by the student body.
And this Bonnaroo lease does come with your approval.
It does.
Okay. You've heard the director's recommendation to accept the Bonnaroo lease that we've been presented. Do I hear a motion to accept?
So moved.
Mr. Cordell?
Second.
Mr. Parsley? Questions on the lease? Hearing none, Miss Jennifer.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. The Bonnaroo lease passes 9-0. Action item number 2, CDW technology bid.
I'm going to defer this one to Mr. Dane Wood, and so please, I will say, please don't make fun of him when you hear him speak. He had a dental procedure done today, and that's never fun for anybody involved. But
Yes, please come to the microphone. Thank you.
Okay, so this is a redo of the drives that we were doing on February. The price went up. So we took those out of what we did last time for technology, and this is just a redo because they went up $4 and something from the last time.
Okay.
And they couldn't honor it. I think there was a rebate involved or something, but anyway.
So this technology bid does come with your recommendation, Dr. Lawson?
it does.
Heard the director's recommendation to accept the CDW technology bid. I'd like to open the floor for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Rose and Mr. Cordell. Questions? So 650 units, it went up $4 a unit.
Yep. So it's like 58.24 now instead of 54 or something.
Any more concerns? If not, we're going to vote to approve action item number 2, CDW technology bid. Mr. Parsley.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Okay, we are now moving to action item number 3, the compensation, and this is an area that we discussed in depth at our last work session. Dr. Lawson, do you want to make a statement about this to get started?
Well, I guess I'll address the work calendars first. As I explained at the work session, our district has a total of 17 work calendars. That has been something that we were hoping to, let's say, streamline a bit and make, to simplify things. There were a variety of things that we discussed. The included documentation has an explanation of everything. I invited board members to reach out to me with any questions they might have about any of these calendars. So the board has a choice. The way I look at it, they have a choice to pull these out and approve them one at a time. They could also, the suggested language in the documentation is a motion, and it has it to where you eliminate work calendars and merge them as described in the board meeting documents, which are included. So they can be done all or separately. If somebody only had a concern about one of them, they could make a motion, say, I move that we approve all of these except, and then that could be discussed separately. That's at the discretion of the board. But I have included a motion in there that would cover them all at once if we don't want to cover them one at a time, all 10. So that is, again, that's at the discretion of the board.
But it does come with your recommendation to change all of these calendars.
Yes, I believe, I feel that 9 of these should be eliminated and 2 of them merged.
Okay. So you've heard the director's recommendation, and of course I do have the wording that was presented, which he just read, that I can repeat if someone, but it's just, I guess, whoever makes the motion.
I'll make the motion.
All right, you want to make the motion for elimination of work calendars 1, 5, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 16, and merging of work calendars 15 and 17 with affected employees reassigned to remaining work calendars as described in the board meeting documents effective in the 2024-2025 school year.
That motion. Make that motion.
Ms. Rose made the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Who was that? Mr. Cordell is seconded. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Are there specific questions anywhere in this motion that anybody needs clarification of or has concerns with? Hearing none, we are going to vote for action item number 3A, the work calendars. Mr. Ballard.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Calculation adjustments. Dr. Lawson.
Again, these can be done either way. There's a little more variability with these calculation adjustments. There is sample language for motions attached to each of these separately. I do not have a motion to accept them all at once, but if a board member wanted to do so, they could with the same language as indicated in the attached documentation. That would be fine, but because there was a lot more variability in this than in the work calendars, that's why I separated them out as unique and individual things for discussion. And so that's, again, at the discretion of the board.
Okay. So it does come with your recommendation to pass all 6 of these calculation adjustments, correct?
As they are written, they have been presented to the compensation committee, and yes, they come in my recommendation as presented to the committee.
Okay. So we can handle these one at a time? Or we could pass all 6, I guess, if there are no concerns, but I'll open the floor up for a motion.
I would like to pull out number 3 for further discussion, but I'm fine with everything else.
Okay. So I've had a motion to accept number 1, number 2, number 4, number 5, and number 6 by Mr. Ballard.
I'll second.
And to discuss, we would put number 3 down by itself to discuss. And Mr. Parsley gave a second. Okay. Questions about 1, 2, 4, 5, or 6 for Dr. Lawson? Do you want me to read these motions as we have them typed? Do we need to do that?
No, if you're passing them all if you're passing those 5 as individuals, it would just be as described in the board meeting documents. So that for record keeping, the motion has been made to accept those, and then because anybody that is viewing this or double checking anything, these documents remain in our archives, then they can double check those at that time. So at this point, that's not necessary to read each individual motion, because it's been described within, and the motion has been made to accept them as in the attached documents.
Okay.
With motion on the floor, right?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard, I just want to clarify, which of these calculation adjustments did you want to pull from this list?
Number 3.
School psychologist and speech language?
That was the one that covered the age, I think.
No, that's number 2.
Oh, then it's labeled 3 on here, I'm sorry. So,
Yeah, it is labeled 3.
We must have 2 different sheets then.
Under action items,
Yep.
calculation adjustments.
So we're going to have to all get on the same.
it's
Same
section
document.
3 of
Get
the-
the right hymnal out.
Okay,
Okay, it depends on which number you're looking at. If you're looking at the agenda, then that is calculation adjustments, and then I can see where the confusion is. Okay, so obviously we will need to modify, and we will need to define for the record which set of numbers we're going to use. I am going to ask for, because the agenda is the most easily accessed document, I would suggest that we use the numbers associated with the agenda. So, who made the original motion? Mr. Ballard.
Mr. Ballard.
So basically, we would need to decide whether that needed to be amended, can be a friendly amendment, to indicate, using the numbers on the agenda, which one needed to be pulled out. And so because the aid is number 2 on the agenda, but since it's included with other items in the overall thing, it was number 3 on the compensation committee notes. So those were compensation committee notes, which differ from the agenda.
Yeah, the agenda has the teacher assistant as number 2.
But I could ask to amend by pulling number 2 from the agenda as noted as number 3 in the documents.
If we just define it by, if we
And
just
making them
define it by
correlate to
agenda,
be the
that'll be
same.
fine.
And we could also say we're gonna, specifically, we are pulling the teacher assistance and behavior modification
So-
out by
You
itself.
need to do a friendly amendment or vote on skip.
Okay, so,
It's gonna be 2.
so yes, Mr. Ballard, I mean, basically, if you accept a friendly amendment to change the number that was pulled out from number 3 to number 2 as seen on the agenda, then that would be that would be the item that you were wanting to pull.
That is acceptable to me, yes. 2 on the agenda.
And Mr.
I'll do it.
Okay.
2 on B2, I guess, the calculation adjustments, item 2, so.
Mr. Parsons.
Mr. Parsley, yeah.
I'll agree with that.
So we are actually pulling out the teacher's assistants. And the rest of them will pass.
That's what it sounds like, yes. Using the numbers on the agenda, I'll just clarify, 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 as written in the compensation committee proposals. The agenda numbers 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6, as described in the board documents, will pass all at once.
And we will discuss teacher assistants by themselves.
Yes, agenda item B2 by itself.
Okay? Any more questions or clarifications? Everybody totally understands? It's clear now, right?
Clear as mud.
I didn't think you wanted to do anything with the school psychologist. When you said that, I thought, wait a minute. What? Yeah.
Okay. So what we are voting for is the action item under compensation 3B. And all the items except for the teacher assistants. Mr. Gilly.
Well, are we voting on changing it now, or I wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, no, go ahead then.
Okay.
All right. Yes, no, it's still open.
Okay. I know you told us at the work session, how much is that costing for all of this?
Oh, for the ones, because we're pulling one out, now keep in mind, the one about interim substitute teacher pay is impossible to calculate because it's hard to predict from one year to the other how many teachers are going to have babies or have surgeries or that kind of thing and need an interim, so that's not possible to calculate. The other one that's not possible to calculate is the increase, the experience awarded to CTE teachers. We won't know how much that is until they prove that experience. But Ms. Melson has a way to build that in there to make sure that it is covered in the budget. The total cost for the others, not counting the aides, the total cost, is between 47 and 48,000. Is that okay? According to the ones that we can calculate, the total cost is between $47,000 and $48,000.
Oh, I was of the understanding at the work session it was 100,000.
Okay, that was the cost of the
over
work
100,000.
calendar. Those were the work calendars.
Okay.
And
So we've already passed that.
Yes, ma'am. We've passed the work calendars. This is about the other compensation items excluding the teacher assistant item.
So 147,000 plus is what we're increasing our budget by.
It would be 100 and just including those things right there, it would be about 160, I believe.
And
about 160,000.
is that all general school?
This will be budgeted, most of this will be budgeted next year, except for the two that have language for March 1st. But yes, it will, well, I'll let Ms. Melson handle that one.
So yes, this will affect general school and also there are some federal positions that will affect, but that number is not included in this.
Right, so this is just general school budget.
Yes,
Do
ma'am.
you foresee that we can continue this in the future? Because this is something that will go before the commissioners, is that correct?
Well, the total.
Our budget, the total budget
will go
will.
before the commissioners, and yes, we feel like this is a sustainable change and something that we recommend and we consider necessary.
Okay, and I know in the past, sometimes it's hard to get a big increase passed, with the county.
Right.
And I know that a lot of times there's other things that have to be increased also, so I'm sure our budget will increase more than the 160,000.
Significantly so,
Mhm.
yes.
So you're sure us that'll go?
To the
For
best.
10 years down, hopefully we'll have money where we can keep increasing, but
We
that's
do not-
something that we have to look at.
We do not anticipate having any problem covering this amount.
Any more questions? Action item 3, compensation B. That's what we're voting as we have stated just earlier. Mr. Gilly, you're the first vote.
Aye.
Cordell? No, I'm.
Aye.
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 And the chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Okay, action item B. We're gonna call that B2.
Yes, agenda item.
Agenda
3B2.
item B2, teacher assistance and behavior modification, CDC HMI integrated pre-K SPED and ISS. Do you want to make a statement on that particular one?
Basically, I'll give this kind of the same rundown that I tried to give at the work session and discussed at the compensation committee meeting. This was something that one of the adjoining city districts, Manchester City, Dr. Vaughn mentioned doing this in his district last year, and when I heard it, I thought it was a pretty good idea, and so I started checking. Franklin County does the same thing, and I've got to admit, those are the only two I checked, because as soon as I saw the first two and it was something that I felt was a good idea, I decided to recommend it to the compensation committee. We have certain environments that represent significant challenges for employees and aides that are in those environments. And again, those are the behavior modification environments, CDC or HMI classrooms, which are our highest need students, integrated pre-K SPED environments, which are where these ultra high need students are transitioning in. And I have, Mr. Westmoreland is here to answer any specific questions. ISS rooms, we have aides that work in there, and they are dealing with behaviors and situations that go beyond what a normal classroom aide would experience. And so basically this would be a motion to add $1 an hour to those particular positions. There is usually, there is almost always an opening somewhere in the district in this. So if somebody was interested, if they had a different aide position and they wanted access to this, they could request a transfer and that kind of thing. But that's basically, I saw two districts that we regularly compete against for employees using that same incentive, so to speak, to staff those areas. And I thought it was a good idea and made the recommendation to the compensation committee.
And this school psychologist speech language, I'm sorry,
Oh, no.
teacher assistance and behavior modification does come with your recommendation.
As presented to the compensation committee, yes.
Okay. So I will open the floor for any motion on this item.
I move
I
that.
second.
You may want to hear what I'm going to move first. Okay. I move that teacher assistants in behavior modification environments, CDC, highly modified instruction classrooms, integrated pre-K SPED environments, and ISS rooms receive an additional $1 per hour effective March 1st,
Okay.
2024.
Okay, Ms. Rose
Second
has
that.
made the motion, and Mr. Cordell got the second. Now, the floor will be open for questions or concerns.
I'm going to say
Go
something.
ahead, you made the motion, you get the
okay.
first.
There's been, I have been emailed by a number of employees who have made a very good case that there are individuals who work in pre-K who deal with some of the same issues that the SPED pre-K deals with. And they believe that they should be given this extra dollar an hour also. I don't have a problem with that. I'm the last person to say that somebody in a school doesn't need to be getting any more money than they're making, because I wish we could give everybody what you honestly earn. But the motion that we have before us can be done right now. And if we vote to do this right now, this does not mean that the compensation committee can't come back and meet again and decide we want to do this for all of our pre-K EAs. We need to get some figures on what that's going to cost if we're going to commit to that in the future, because we're talking about a larger number of people. But nothing stops us from offering that for next year. But if we, I think of it as cutting the baby in half. Well, if we can't give it to everybody, we're not going to give it to anybody. We got some people we can give it to right now. And I think we ought to go ahead and move on that. And then if we decide later on we want to expand that number of people that we give that extra dollar to, that's fine. You know, pre-K deals with a lot of stuff that I don't want to have to deal with. Same argument could be said for some kindergarten classrooms. So I think we need a deeper discussion into looking at bumping those people up. And that needs to be a separate discussion from this one. And I'll stop talking.
Dr. Lawson, what are the pros and cons of extending this to all the aides, like has been suggested?
Well, I mean, the pros is, as Ms. Rose observed, the pros are anytime we can give our employees more money for their job and their work, we want to do so. The cons is right now we don't have the calculations. We don't have the calculations to extend that to everybody. I know that we would not be able to do it effective March 1st, 2024. As Ms. Rose has observed, that's the way this one's written. The other is the fact that we have certain positions. We're just basically trying to remain competitive with some of our neighboring districts, and they have these same environments listed on theirs, and that's part of the reason that I pursued this particular thing. It's not, there are challenges in all of our classrooms, there are challenges in all of our schools. That is, aides, will we be doing a percentage raise for every hourly employee this year? The answer is yes. Will they get an experience increase? The answer to that is yes, unless they're already at step 25. All these things are accurate. Right now, this is an incentive, this acts as an incentive to get staffing into those environments that are truly problematic on a daily basis. And there are problems sometimes daily in every classroom. I recognize that. And but this is just simply, these particular environments have significant challenges that are not as experienced as regularly in other environments. And so that's why we have such a trouble staffing them, and that's also why other districts made this move I know, like I said, Manchester did it going into this year, and that's when I first heard about it. Franklin County has done it longer, but I don't know when they started that. I've seen that on their pay scale for a year or two. And,
Do you know where we fall in line with the other teachers' assistants and things like that for other?
as far as other jobs, yes, I mean, whenever I reworked the pay scales for classified staff 2 years ago, Mr. Crabtree and I spent an extended period of time basically smoothing those things out and trying to become competitive with other districts around us. He and I were doing that work 2 years ago, so it's difficult for me to say, hey, we're ahead at this point and behind at these points, because I have not done an in-depth analysis for 2 years on that particular question.
Thank you.
And if we increased it for all of the aides, it would help everyone, but it probably would affect, there would be no more people probably applying for these positions that are hard.
It removes the incentive for the hardest to staff positions. There's no incentive at that point. The other is, I'm going to have to say, if there is an amendment that is passed to add all aides, there desperately needs to be an amendment added to remove effective March 1st, 2024, because we don't know that that is a sustainable thing for that number of employees. Right.
Okay, Ms. Jones, go ahead.
I agree that these people need more. The dollar seems, very minimal. But is this the special ed budget? I'm sure.
No, the bulk of this, well, and it depends upon where that particular person is paid from. So there would be some that come from the general budget and some that come from the sped budget, but I'm going to defer to the people at this other table to make sure I'm right on that.
My point was, I'm sure you've consulted with Mr. Westmoreland, because it will affect, and that's like a lot of these other positions, it affects their budget.
Right.
And I'm hoping that the compensation committee and you consulted with these people.
We have Mr. Westmoreland as the SPED representative. Miss Sizemore is the pre-K and elementary supervisor, and I sat and discussed this at length before we took it to the compensation committee. Mr. Westmoreland can confirm that conversation occurred in his office a number of weeks ago.
It's something that's desperately needed.
Oh, I understand.
And
I know sometimes your budgets are limited,
you're
right. And you'll have to switch accounts around to make it work.
Right.
And
right.
I just wanted to make sure that
yes,
the board understood that.
Yes, ma'am. When we started talking about this, when we started having these conversations, I was really excited about the potential we would have, because these positions for these highest need of students is some of the hardest to fill, and and this is a very minimal step to help improve that recruitment of other teachers, other assistants. Yes, ma'am. But yes, we will. We look at it. I look at it every day to determine where we're going to move the money from here to there, federal and general, in the special ed department, to make sure that we can cover this along with the benefits and things that go along with it.
And please understand, I just want to make sure it's clear. I did not look into those two budgets and said, hey, we can do this and that and the other. I have two people that I respect their expertise, Ms. Melson and Mr. Westmoreland. When we talked about it, they said, yes, we can do this. And so I will say, have I looked at it myself and pulled that up and added it up? No, I have not, because my experts in that field have told me that we can do this.
Could we modify the motion to say we want to have another compensation committee meeting to consider this and look at the financial impacts?
That doesn't
even have to be in the motion.
That doesn't require a motion.
Have another compensation committee.
We can have a compensation committee, and that does not have to be a part of the motion. And so, if we can, Ms. Westmoreland has heard the discussion. She knows that has been requested, and we will we'll schedule that.
Okay. More questions? So, we are going to vote to approve action item under calculation adjustments, the teacher assistance and behavior modification as presented. Mr. Cordell, first vote.
Aye.
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 Aye, with the provision that we have the compensation committee meeting and look at including all the age and financial impact.
Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. All right, moving on to action item number 4, bus surplus and donation. Mr. Shores or Dr. Lawson?
Go ahead, Mr. Shores. Okay, we have a bus 9911 that has been taken out of use and out of our fleet from being used many years ago. We're not finding anywhere that it actually got surplus. The mechanics have been using it. They took all the seats out of it, been using it to put tires in it, storing tires. The actual engine has been removed. The bus is very unusable now. But we want to make sure that it gets surplus before we do anything with it. And then second, we have had EMS contact Mr. Morris asking for a bus to do trainings on evacuating students out of a bus if there's ever an accident. So to me, that sounds like a win-win for us if we have a bus that we can use for that. And so what I'm suggesting is we surplus the bus and in the same motion, donate it to the EMS for this purpose. We could do it one of two different ways. You can surplus it and then donate it, or you could just surplus it, or you could do nothing. I mean, that's you're right, but I think it'd be a good thing for us.
Okay. Dr. Lawson, this surplus in the bus and donating it comes with your recommendation?
Yes, I would recommend we both surplus and donate this bus.
Okay.
And I believe, Mr. Morris, correct me if I'm wrong, if EMS uses this bus for a while and they have done everything they need, if it needs to be scrapped out at that point, I believe it returns back to the district, and the district would at least get the scrap.
We would get the scrap money.
We get
out
the
of it.
scrap money. We get the scrap money out of it. But understand, if they need it for 5 years or they need it, I think we should leave them to use that as long as they feel like they need it for training purposes.
Okay. You've heard the director's recommendation to surplus bus 9911 and donate it to Coffee County EMS. I'd like to open the floor for any motion.
That's so moved.
Mr. Cordell, and that you like
Yes.
that? Okay. Mr. Cordell
And
made
that is the surplus and donation?
surplus and donate.
Yes,
Right.
thank you.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Cordell. And Ms.
What are you
Rhodes.
going to do with all those tires?
They've already removed them.
Just kidding.
Was it already surplused?
No,
That's what I'm saying.
They've already used.
We were not. I went through and tried to find where it had been surplus, and I'm not finding anywhere. So I want to make sure it gets surplus before we do a donation. If it had been, I'm not locating it in the minutes anywhere.
Oh, okay. I was just reading. It said you had requested an old surplus bus.
They're asking for an old surplus bus. So if we surplus this one,
It'd be
it's
an
an old
old
bus
surplus.
that will be surplus, and we would donate it.
Yeah, I think that we would only gain from giving to them, especially if they're training to get our kids out of buses.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I'd say that's hard to turn that down. All right, any more questions or comments? If not, Mr. Crabtree, your first vote.
Aye.
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 The chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Hickerson and Koss HVAC bid. Mr. Shores?
Yes. Okay, this did not come in the packet as of last week, and the reason why I was waiting for a bid from Train to come in, and I knew that it was coming in, and they were working trying to get it to us, and so I went ahead and put it on the agenda. We sent it out today, so feel free to ask questions if you do have questions. It's for HVAC units on top of Hickerson. There's 2 units that need to be changed out on top of Hickerson.
You're special.
And there's 3 units on top of costs. Now, I've split it out, and they actually sent me the quotes in 2 different areas. We would be using ESSER 3 money to do this. The amount of money that we did put aside will not cover, and wanting to come close, to cover the 2 schools. The school that is needing it the most is Hickerson Elementary. So my suggestion or proposal is to pass the one for Hickerson Elementary, but not the cost units, so that we can take care of it. It will take up everything that we put in for this out of ESSER 3. We will have to use some capital outlay to finish it off, but we're putting, when we buy a canister of Freon for these units, these are old units, and it's costing about $1,000 per canister, is the way I understand. So they're obsolete, and we need to go ahead and use these funds to continue to upgrade where we need to go.
Okay, so Dr. Lawson, your recommendation is?
My recommendation is that we accept the bid for HVAC replacement at Hickerson only, not to include the costs bid. So when the motion is made, I would request that we make the bid to accept the Hickerson HVAC replacement quote only.
And that's 90.
Total cost is $95,908.
$95,908. Okay. So
being
you've heard
rooftop units. Part of that is getting these things on the roof.
You've heard the director's recommendation to accept the quote to remove and replace the 2 HVAC units at Hickerson Elementary for $95,908.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Ms. Jennifer made it, and Mr. Parsley seconded that. Ms. Jennifer, Mr. Parsley. Questions about this bid?
This is not about this bid, but I know it's coming from ESSER funds. And how long, I know the cost is coming, $118,000 approximately for costs. Where will that be available if we go ahead later and do this? Since it's ESSER funds, I know they have to be spent by a certain time.
Yes, it exceeds our allotment within ESSER by enough that we can't do that from ESSER funds. Those units at costs are the newer of the, well, they are in better shape. That's why we're recommending the Hickerson ones. But there will come a time that we will need to replace those at cost using capital projects at some point. But the need is less immediate there than it is at Hickerson. That's why we're recommending with the funding we have left in ESSER 3 to move forward with that.
So the $118,000 will be used for something else from ESSER?
No, we actually only put $75,000 to the side for these units. So that's the reason why we're having to actually supplement with the capital outlay to get up to the $95,000.
Yes, we did not allot the full amount for not knowing how much this was going to cost and that kind of thing. We just set aside some money when we budgeted, and the money that was set aside is not sufficient to cover both.
Would it be sufficient to cover Hickerson?
Most of Hickerson. Most of Hickerson, yes.
Any other questions? So we are going to vote to accept action item number 5, the Hickerson bid.
The Hickerson HVAC replacement only.
Yeah, go ahead.
You say you was having to pay somebody to get them up there on the roof too?
When they come and do a bid, they actually give us the bid for the full package, turnkey. So they're taking care of actually placing them on the.
Yeah, I noticed that the last year or so they've been bringing them in there and doing that, because I've been donating every time y'all needed something, you know.
Okay.
And all of that, but I noticed that stopped. But I hate to spend money if we don't have to with donations.
Oh, I agree.
And will this still work in conjunction with, I know we're looking at remodeling Hickerson or doing something in the future or something like that, is that?
It will work within conjunction of remodeling. Now, if we go to the side of actually tear down and building a brand new building, maybe
That
not.
hurts. Yeah.
But remodeling it would.
Remodeling, they would be used, yes.
Okay.
It's got to be, I mean, it has to be done, doesn't it?
It needs to be done, yes.
No matter what.
It needs to be.
We're going to vote unless there's any other comments on the Hickerson HVAC bid. Ms. Rose.
Aye.
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 Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Budget amendment, Ms. Melson? Or Mr.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Lawson?
I'll let Ms. Melson handle this one.
I'll just go through a few notes from the bottom of your budget amendment. This is budget amendment 141-2024-9. It does not affect fund balance. The first three affect revenue. So the first one is just a reclassification of the TISA funds. When we brought the TISA funds in from a previous budget amendment, I put those in the wrong account. So I'm just reclassifying those funds. Number 2 and 3 are new revenue. So we're just bringing those into the budget. And then number 4, so we got a special education grant earlier in the year. And in order to move those funds in the general budget, I have to do a budget amendment. So that's what number 4 is. 5 and 6 all affect salaries. So salaries or benefits. So at this time of the point in the year, I estimate salaries and benefits and determine where we need to move funds around. So this is just reclassification of funds and items in the budget that I need to add money to those lines to keep from going over. The next 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 are the same idea. They're just supplies, contracted services, staff development, utilities, transportation parts, and supplies. If you have specific questions on any of the lines, I'd be glad to answer those individually, but this is just starting to clean up the budget for the end of the school year. You're likely to see another amendment like this as we progress into the end of the school year.
Budget amendment 141-2024-9 comes with your recommendation, Dr. Lawson?
It does.
Okay. You've heard the director's recommendation to accept the budget amendment that was presented. I'd like to open the floor for any motion. Not hearing none.
So move.
Second.
Oh, second. I'm sorry.
Parsley?
Zoned out on you here.
Rose? So we have had a motion and a second for the budget amendment. Concerns?
I don't have any concerns. I just have some questions.
No questions?
Okay, what is the BEST? What does that stand for, that contribution?
So it's a new program that was started by Connie Sekulich. She is our district-wide social worker. So she is using that program to support the schools. She's buying materials to help support the schools with the BEST program. And that's all I really, she took donations from the community in order to buy supplies and have meetings at the schools.
So that's donations, that BEST grant? Or
Yes,
what?
ma'am.
Okay. Okay, I have a question on, it's the number 6 on page 2 of 3. It says other student support, and there's a 10,000 increase in secretary.
Yes, so that is additional years of experience for the employees in that area. So if you remember, back when we did the budget, we gave classified full years of experience for what they could prove. And so when I only budgeted to everyone getting 2 years in each category. So when those people brought back their experience, they had more than 2 years. And so we were able, with the $185,000 that we had in the entire budget, we were able to move those funds around to give everyone their full years of experience. So this is adding more money to that line.
For this year?
Yes, ma'am.
So we started all that this year? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what about the other salaries and wages, 5,000? under student support?
That is for, no, that is for subs for that, for those secretaries.
Okay. Subs for the secretaries?
Yes, ma'am. If we need additional support at the school level, if we have a sub out at the front office, we do get subs to help them. Yes, ma'am.
An elementary bookkeeper, receptionist, that kind of thing, they get subs.
Okay, so, all right, under regular instruction support services, it's probably the same thing with supervisor director. That's 2,000 increase for those supplements.
No, ma'am. Those are calculations. So when I was calculating the budget, there are several supervisors that are in that budget. We have one that's split between general and federal. So when I calculated those budgets, there was so many moving parts that's just an additional $2,000 that we need to put in that line. So no one got a supplement. It's just me cleaning up that line of the budget.
And the secretary, the same, 1,000?
The secretary is, yes, ma'am, the split between a general and federal employee, and me cleaning up that area of the budget. Yes, ma'am.
And I guess 15,000. You had to increase medical insurance by 15,000.
Yeah, so we had a 5% increase in medical, and then open enrollment comes in October, so employees can change what coverage they have. So we more than likely had employees go from like an individual plan to a family plan, and that would increase the cost to the board. So on top of the 5% increase in the medical, that happens every January.
I appreciate you answering this.
You're welcome.
Okay, under special ed program, was there a new secretary added for 25,000?
No, ma'am. That was, so we had Miss Darlene Northcutt left, and we paid her off her vacation, paid her vacation out. And we also brought in Miss Dotson early to train with her. So that's 2 salaries we would pay out of that line for a month, as well as her payoff.
Okay. Okay, under Office of Superintendent, it says County Official Administrative Officer, 6,000 addition.
So yes, ma'am, that's an error on my part. I did not include Dr. Lawson's mileage in the original budget. The auditor actually caught that and brought that to my attention in the last school year. So this is an amendment to add his mileage to his pay line.
Okay, and I guess the additional 4,500 for the secretary.
Yeah, that was additional years of experience for Miss Westmoreland.
Okay. And then Office of the Principals, I'm sure the 1,500 was just an adjustment.
It is, and so we do a calculation to make sure those employees are the highest level paid in the building. And so when we calculated pay, those are additional adjustments that needed to be made for 2 principals that are paid out of that line.
Okay, and accounts bookkeepers, 2,000.
Yes, those are additional years of experience.
So this is what's coming about from what we passed.
Yes, so
is what you're
basically you had
saying.
185,000 to use in the budget. We didn't use all of that, and so we knew that we were going to have some areas where we didn't budget enough, and some areas where we could move that around and be able to give everyone their years of experience.
Okay, then I'm going to skip down to fiscal services where it says other contracted services, $12,000.
Okay, so that's new finance software. So we are implementing a new program that coordinates with our financial software, and Miss Langham is on board. So it's it's called My Smart Hire, and it's something that we've just started this month, and it automatically feeds into our finance software, and it streamlines our hiring process all the way into payroll.
Okay, and then I'm sure this is nothing we can help, but water and sewer, there was an additional 25,000.
Yes, ma'am. We've seen an increase in our bills over the last few months. This is just an estimate based on if we may need more money in that line. We probably won't use the full 25,000, but I don't want to go over on that line. But yes, we've already used more than 50% of our budget, and I didn't want to try to push a budget amendment toward the end of the school year, if we were to go over.
Okay, and then I'm sure in transportation, the 10,000 was due to the supervisors.
That's extra labor that we provide an employee for, a few employees for the training of new bus drivers.
10,000?
Yes, ma'am, that's extra labor for them, so that could be overtime.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
More questions on the budget amendment? Everyone's happy. We vote for action item number 6, the budget amendment, to pass the budget amendment. Ms. Jones, you're first.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Budget update, Ms. Melson.
Okay, so this is the budget update through January. Year to date, we've received $30,616,000 in revenue, and then we've received 59% compared to last year, 58%. So revenues are on track to meet where we were at last year and above. And then balance to date for expenditures, we are at we've spent $25,534,000, which was 47% of the budget, a little above last year is 46.65%. I will answer specific questions, but the budget's on track. I don't see any issues to this point.
Dr. Lawson, this budget update comes with your recommendation.
It does.
I'd like to open the floor for a motion to accept the budget update.
So moved.
Ms. Rose, Mr. Cordell gets the second. Questions on this particular update? Hearing none, we're going to vote to approve the update. Ms. Jennifer?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. And I believe that has the action items taken care of. Items for discussion.
I would just,
Go
if
ahead.
I could,
Yep.
I'd just like to point out that you should have received an email if you were on the evaluation committee. We are having a meeting on March 19th at 4:30. Ask you to please be prompt for that. Y'all know I don't like meetings that drag on. There are going to be 3 things that we are going to accomplish at that meeting. First of all, we are going to hear the progress on the results, the return, not the results, but the progress on the return of surveys that have gone out to teachers. We are going to be examining the director's contract. There have been some questions about the language of that contract. It contains reference to an instrument in there that we have never provided. So we need to get that language straightened out for the future, for no matter who our superintendent, our director may be, but that language needs to be straightened out. Then we need to look over the evaluation instrument and see if going into the coming year there are any changes, any recommendations that we want to make to the full board for changes in that evaluation. I want to thank Mr. Parsley for getting those contracts from TSBA. And has everyone on the committee received those? Have those been sent out
Yes.
to everyone? Okay.
I think everyone's received them, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's homework, gang. That's homework. You got to look over those, and we got to come to the table ready to talk about these items on that day so we can make some recommendations. But once again, that is going to be at 4:30 on March 19th. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
The board members have anything, Ms. Jones?
Yeah.
Or Mr. Ballard, go ahead.
All right, I'd like to talk about the TISA outcome-based funding. I think the state has really given us a interesting opportunity here, and we saw that this year the state pool was $80 million, and we got $356,000 because we did pretty good on our test scores. But I really think, and we talked a little bit about the money we got in our work session, you know, how we should allocate that. We didn't come to any conclusions, but my feeling is the people that are directly responsible for getting those scores for us, and the outcomes-based funding is based on TCAP and ACT scores and graduation rates and some other things. And so the teachers and the aides are really the ones that are responsible for getting that. And so we should look at using those funds, you know, whether it's going to playground equipment, supplies, whether we kind of allocate part of that for extra pay. I don't think you could do a raise, but because it's a little bit variable, but I think at a future work session, you know, and I'm not asking for any action here, but at a future work session, we should really look at how we do that in the future to allocate as much as that possible back to the teachers and aides, because they're the ones that are really doing the work that earn that. And I read Dr. Clark's comments in the Manchester Times that they're doing a better job in preparing the kids for the tests and getting them to understand what they need to do, and it's starting to show some results. So I really appreciate that, and think that you know, that I'd like to hear ideas, you know, maybe from people out there in YouTube land or people here, you know, how we can allocate that and try to get a lot of that back in the hands of the teachers, whether it's supplies, playground equipment, stuff to improve their life in classrooms, or some extra pay, whatever we do. So, you know, I'd like to see that taken up at a future work session with some
Isn't that what we
serious
discussed,
discussion.
though, at the work session?
We did, but we didn't make any decision.
But I mean, that's what Dr. Lawson presented.
Right,
So,
but I'd
we
also
do.
like to put on the table is maybe we look at some extra pay or bonus or however you normally do that, so.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Mr. Parsley, you got anything?
No, I concur with him that I think we need to reward those schools that worked hard for it. But at this time, I'd also like to congratulate our schools, the reward schools. I think we've really done that here at the board meeting and stuff, and thank them for the hard work in all the schools. All the scores were good, and certainly appreciate all that everyone does. So, thank you.
Jennifer?
Go Lady Raiders. Congratulations. Be so proud of yourself. That was amazing. That was great.
Jones, you have anything?
In addition to what she's saying, I'm sure it's probably in the works, but I think that they certainly need recognition from the board for what they accomplished going to state. Very exciting.
And a new sign. There's an old sign about Lady Raiders basketball right at the county line. We need some new signs out there to celebrate the past few years.
I think those were put up by private people.
Were they?
When they finally have deteriorated.
They've been there a long time.
Yeah, they've been there since 1993.
Long time.
So,
Could we look at what it would
People that
cost
put it
maybe
up
to
yeah, go ahead.
replace those?
I have one other thing. I wish we could look into getting a big entrance and exit sign at the middle school. I had a parent call me the other day when they were having a baseball game, and visitors that's coming to the school, a lot of times they're thinking that first driveway is the entrance, and she was coming out, and there were two cars coming in the same time she was going out. So I hadn't thought about it, but I saw that would be confusing if you're coming in for those games after
did that.
school. And that if we could get a big entrance and exit out there where people will know exactly where the entrance is and not go in the exit.
Mr. Crabtree, you have anything today? No. Mr. Cordell? Mr. Gilly? Being quiet. Come on, you gotta have something.
Cold medicine and Lady Raiders.
Yeah.
Can I add one thing? They were talking about the signs that are bad that coming into our town or whatever. Is that something we could look at, possibly seeing what it would cost to replace those? I mean, if they were bought by private citizens years ago, some of those citizens may not even be with us today. But I mean, those signs need to be kept up. I mean, we were the state champions.
And there was a little bit of talk about that a few years ago, but I don't know, nothing ever took.
Well, but I mean, if they look bad, they're a reflection on us. Is that something we could do, Dr. Lawson?
We can check into that, yes.
And yeah, I'd just like to say that I was only able to go to one of the games at MTSU, but boy, that was exciting. And to see the amount of people and our students there drew a lot of attention to and positive attention. Everybody behaved. It was just a very, very good experience. And with our scores coming out, we've been drawing some good attention to Coffee County schools and some positive things. So now let's hear from the principals. Who would like to start? Mr. Anderson?
I think Miss Kathy should go first. I saw that.
Just pick your song from the karaoke book.
I wanted to highlight one small group.
I'm sorry, I just noticed there's a red light on this, so that means the battery is...
Could we check on some new mics, maybe?
Yeah, no problem. Of course, spring sports, that's already in full swing, so if you want to attend those events, reach out. If you don't have a schedule, I'll be glad to share a schedule with you. But I want to highlight a group at the middle school that just competed, our Invention Convention group. So these students competed at MTSU. They have worked for quite some time now on their invention, and we had an 8th grader that placed first that is able to go at the national level. He's going to be able to compete in Michigan. So he was so excited about that, and so it was interesting to see what they came up with. And so I believe we had, I think it was mainly 7th and 8th graders that were in that group, but we had somewhere around 10 or 12 kids, I believe, that were able to participate in that. So that was a really great experience, and like I said, one of them wound up with first place. So super proud of them. So thank you.
Do you know what the invention was? What it?
Yes. So I was able to spend an afternoon with them one day after school, so they can kind of present their inventions to me. So his was not a brand new idea, but it was a modification. So he had some type of like hat, toboggan kind of a hat thing that he had sewn a pocket inside that was big enough for a wallet, for a phone, for things of that nature. And so I'm sure he made a really good pitch as well for that at the Invention Convention. And so it got him first place in that category. So he's competing in Michigan. I believe it's sometime this summer.
Well, good for him. Will you let us know so we can kind of keep tabs on it?
We may see him on Shark Tank.
Yeah, that's exciting.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
I'd wear a hat like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your
Thank you all.
excursions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Crabtree.
At Hickerson, next week starts our book fair, so kids are always excited about that. And Thursday night, the 20th, is our family night from 3 to 5, if any of you want to come out and visit our book fair. Then we'll start gearing up for spring break. Our spring fling is going to be April 12th from 5 to 7 p.m., and that's a free event for our Hickerson families. And then we'll start getting ready for testing. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Parsley.
We've got lots of things going on at the high school, things that have happened over the past 2 or 3 weeks. And with spring, it just seems to get busier and busier, whether it's athletics. We've got spring musical going on right now. And, we're getting close to testing time, so there, as these ladies can attest, there are just lots of things going on all the time. But I want to share just 2 or 3 pieces of things we have, and they have quite a bit more shortly. We will be giving the ACT to our juniors in just about 2.5 weeks, and we will also be giving the pre-ACT to our sophomores. And on that very same day, our seniors will be job shadowing, and a portion of our seniors will also be doing a post-secondary school visit. So all 3 grade levels taking advantage of that day. All in all, we'll have about 850 kids testing that day, and it's about a 4 to 5 hour test. Kind of a tough day for those kids and for the staff members as well. If you'd believe that, administering a test for that long is quite difficult. But that's a day that is an important day at the school. We want our kids to be as prepared as they can for the test. The pre-ACT for sophomores gives us sort of a baseline for where they are, and gives them an idea of where they might want to go, where they might want to grow, and a score that they might want to attain. And for our junior students, it will be for most of them their first go around with the ACT. Also want to mention that on the 21st, which is next week, and that would be on Thursday, we will have our annual Top 10% banquet. And you all, of course, are invited to that, and that will be at our conference center. And we'll be recognizing, I can't remember exactly how many are in our top 10% this year, but it's right around 40 kids. We'll be recognizing and honoring those kids and their academic accomplishments for high school. So we're excited about that. And then finally, we have a blood drive next week on Wednesday. And that will begin at 8:30. It'll be in our gymnasium that will go until 2 p.m. And we, as always, we will accept anyone that may be interested in giving blood. We are always looking for additional people to do that. Sometimes we do get booked up, but we always have a good turnout for that blood drive. And of course, it goes to a good cause to do it. It's a good experience for our kids in our health science program to participate and work in that blood drive as well. You all are aware that we have lots of successes here lately in athletics. We have, of course, we're in the state tournament, and I think these ladies are going to elaborate a little bit on that. You all are aware of that. We also, in wrestling, had lots of success this year, and we had two young men and one young lady that advanced into sectional and beyond, and we're just really proud of their efforts. We unfortunately did not have anyone win state, but we continue to have lots of success nevertheless in wrestling though. Our spring musical, The Drowsy Chaperone, began last Friday night. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to see that yet. I plan to go this weekend. I am hearing really good things about it. I heard from Mr. Higdon that Dr. Lawson was there this past weekend, and it's a really good show. We've got right around 50 kids that are involved in that. Some of them painting sets, some of them working sound or lighting, some of them acting and singing in the musical. And so that'd be an opportunity to support about 50 of our young people. That show this weekend will run on Friday and Saturday night at 7 p.m. and on Sunday at 2 p.m. It'll wrap up on Sunday. That's all I'll share, and they'll have some more. Okay.
Thank you. And while you're...
Excuse me, Mr. Parsley.
Yeah.
When is the top 10 event at?
That is next Thursday evening at 6 p.m.
At the conference center.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you. And while you're sitting down,
Mr. Parsley, would any, if board members are attending, would they need to respond to the
there is
Student
an email.
Counseling
I think
Center?
we did get an
Yes,
email.
I believe that has gone out, I think, through Miss Michelle Scheibel. Am I correct on that?
It did come out, but it was...
Okay. Was that forwarded through you, or was that directly through Ms. Scheibel? My understanding is it has gone out. If it has not, by all means, you let me know. I've been under the impression that invitation has gone out.
I think I did see that.
On to her.
Yeah, we definitely want to, if you're able to come, we'd love for you to do that. We'd like for you to RSVP so that we can be sure that we have adequate meals and such. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you. And I just want to say one note about East Coffee. Mr. Keith in here, but last week they had their reading week and invited us to go read, and I went and read Wednesday morning for 2 to 3 hours, and that's probably the most rewarding thing I have done. I don't know if they enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it, and I dressed up a little bit, and I had a great time.
What'd you wear? Let's hear it.
Do what?
What'd you dress up in?
Well, I went as a world traveler, and I had some clothes that I had from Ecuador, and had llamas on it, and the big hats, and so I read traveling books.
There you go.
And then we did animal books, and so it was just a great morning.
I
And
wore
think-
bunny ears, and they looked at me like I was crazy.
Yeah, but they looked at you, didn't they?
They did.
And they enjoyed you. So anyhow, I think that's a wonderful, the reading programs are absolutely wonderful, I think. So All right, yes.
So I did send the email out. It went out in February, on February the 6th, and it said to respond back to Ms. Shovel. It was just the invitation that she sent to everybody. So go back and look, or I'll just reshare it to everybody. But you can let me know, and I'll send it to her. But please let her know because it.
So they can get the food. Yeah. Okay. Let's see, committee reports.
We don't have any committee reports over the last month. We'll have a couple at the next board meeting.
Okay. And Miss Ella, Miss Riley, we're ready for you two. Yeah, get up to the microphone.
Okay, so I'm going to cover some clubs at Coffee County High School that have had some successes and hope for future successes. DECA, which is our marketing club, just competed at state in Chattanooga a few weeks ago. We had 3 winners. We had I was a winner, Riley was a winner, and then Kaylin Brinkley was a winner. And we will travel to Anaheim, California at the end of April to compete in internationals, and we will represent Tennessee amongst 9 other countries. So we are definitely excited for that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
FBLA will travel to Chattanooga to compete at state at the beginning of April. So hopefully at the next meeting we have some winners to announce then. And then if we win at state, then we will travel to Orlando sometime in July, I think, for nationals. And then Criminal Justice had their mock trial a few weeks ago. They unfortunately did not place, but I heard a lot of good things from Miss Acklin about that mock trial. So they were very prepared for it. They just unfortunately did not come out on top.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I have sports. So baseball, softball, soccer, and tennis have all begun their spring seasons, and track's first meet is this Saturday. And as we've already talked about, the girls' basketball, they had an amazing season, and they made it to the state semifinals, which is the top 4 teams in the state, and it was so much fun, and it was awesome. So, yeah. Do y'all have any questions?
Yep. Any questions for our ambassadors?
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all. We appreciate you being here. Director's report, Dr. Lawson.
Yes, I will say to Mr. Ballard, what he was suggesting is exactly what I said at the work session back on February 27th. I was advocating that we either give that to the schools, we give that to the employees. I would not restrict it. I would suggest not restricting it just to teachers and aides. Our nutrition employees make an amazing amount of difference. Our bus drivers make an amazing amount of difference. Our custodians keep our facilities clean. I would say if the board decides to go in the direction of extra pay, that we include all employees and not just teachers and aides. But those are the suggestions I made a couple of weeks ago. Now I will say the Drowsy Chaperone was an excellent show. I've seen a lot of good shows at our high school auditorium, and that was as good as anything I have seen. And so extremely proud of what those kids can produce and do. We had a chance, my wife and I had a chance to attend. We had a spaghetti dinner provided by the band was doing a fundraiser, so we were able to have a spaghetti dinner ahead of time and then a show. It was a wonderful evening, so I highly recommend it. Great production, and so that's where we are right there. As far as ESSER update, we continue, as has been observed in this meeting. We did, this is the last year for ESSER 3, which is the final ESSERs, where we continue to work towards spending those down, allocating those appropriately. This meeting alone, you dealt with the movement of some of the ESSER funds to pay for the HVAC units at Hickerson, and we continue to do that, making sure that we utilize every bit of federal funds that we have. But that's it.
Okay. Couple other things. Our next school board meeting will be on April 8th, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. right here. Spring retreat, go ahead and get that on your calendars. April 18th, 2024. And Melissa has left us the summer law and your compensation papers, so if you could go ahead and fill those out and get those back to her today, I think she would appreciate that. Is there anything else I missed? Okay. With that, I think we've accomplished everything we came for. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have a great evening.